Hey, everybody, it's Lance Dawson. I'm back with my partner in crime, Andrew Stewart, back with another episode of Backstage Lowdown. Today, another Canadian music icon. The band Cuff the Duke may be part of your musical lexicon, or they may not be, but they're an amazing Americana type of band. You may know them from a long time ago. They took a brief hiatus, and now they're back with a new album, Breaking Dawn. And we have the lead singer, songwriter, Wayne Petti, with us today. Stay tuned. Here we go. Hey, everybody. Just a brief FYI. Today's episode of Backstage Lowdown brought to you by Look Digital Marketing. Look at Andrew and I. We're all grown up. We've got a sponsor. They make stunning websites. They do full service digital marketing. They'll help your business shine online. See the difference with Look Digital Marketing. You can find them at lookmarketing.ca. You could do that right now. Go find them.
Well, I'm thinking about it. For those musicians around Toronto, Grossman's Tavern, they've got their music scholarship that is coming up. Entries are due by September the 23rd. It's their Emmy Louis Grossman Music Scholarship. You'll get to perform on October the 8th, I believe, for all the winners. So get your applications in, and good luck to all.
And for those of you who are Kitchener-Waterloo musicians, well, suck it. There's no scholarship for you. No soup for you. Too bad. You just keep paying for everything yourself.
Outside of that, how was your weekend, man?
My weekend was fine. My weekend was fine.
Did you go away?
We were up in Blue Mountain. And
any tornadoes strike down up there?
No. There was some rain. There was some rain.
Apparently there was one just south of us in air that struck down, and a little bit of damage is my understanding.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Thankfully, I don't think it was any homes, so that's a good thing. But
no, I don't think anybody was hurt.
No.
However, I've always said, I don't know, like Kitchener-Waterloo it's a pretty cool place, but we don't have mountains and lakes and whatever. But I'll tell you what we do have. Geographically, we're not really a source of hurricanes and floods and earthquakes and all that stuff. And now a tornado touches down in air. I'm like, come on. That was our thing.
Yeah, exactly.
We were geographically in a safe place. Just because our stupid city councils keep building 30-story towers every 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, that's what's going to happen. We're growing.
But we don't need to grow. There's actually a book out
Tell
that
the people
I am
that.
going to start to read. It's all about questioning, like, what is the benefit of growth, right? I don't know. And 30-story buildings. We don't even have fire departments that can get up 30 stories. Like, these people are just dead. Hey, look at this guy. Hey, Wayne.
How's it going?
It goes well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
The last time that Andrew and I got to see you, at least in person, you were opening for Blue Rodeo in Center in the Square a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, right on.
Is it actually
right
a couple years ago now?
It
feels
was.
like
It was
yesterday.
Yeah.
2021.
Was it that long ago?
I thought it
I
was just
think
like
so
2
because
years ago.
then it went into there was a lockdown because it was like the next
another
week everything went into with the last big lockdown of the pandemic.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. I guess this is sort of how I mark things now, is I don't remember wearing a mask at the concert. But I don't know.
Or maybe
Anyway.
were we still wearing masks?
I can't remember. Probably.
I don't remember either. I think we
I think
would've been, actually.
the takeaway here was the Cuff the Duke sounded good. Blue Rodeo
Yeah.
sounded
Okay,
good.
thank
It was a great night. And what's more is I agreed with all your guitar choices. So
Oh, Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, that was great because it was I always show up to see what guitars guys are playing and stuff. So
Oh, nice. Oh,
yeah,
see, I love that stuff too. Like I'm a big gear nerd
isn't that awesome? Yeah,
for
Andrew, can you
sure.
take a break for a second?
Yeah,
Wayne and I are
I'll
gonna just
walk away
chat
for
gear
10,
for a little bit.
45
Yeah.
minutes and you guys talk guitars.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. There was a cool Telly. I think there was a Gretsch. It's been a while
Yeah,
now,
there was a
but
Gretsch. I had
yep.
like it looks like a 6120, but it's actually a 6117 anniversary from
Oh,
19
nice.
from 1960 that was sunburst and had it was slightly different setup, and then someone like basically made it the poor man's 6120, and I got to capitalize on that.
Fantastic. Well,
Sweet.
that's
And it's
fantastic.
it's a killer sounding guitar. They put vintage Filtertron pickups in it too, like 60s Filtertron pickups, and that guitar is incredible.
Yeah.
Nice.
Isn't it great? Because people don't realize that when you start screwing around with vintage guitars, you might be actually, in fact, making them better, but you're devaluing them. So then guys that actually play them can come along and say, hey, smoking tool, I'm going to buy this at, a quarter of the price or half the price, whatever. And it's an amazing guitar.
Exactly. And like quarter of the price in that
Yeah.
case. So it's because a real 6120 from 1960 would probably be $10,000. And
Yeah.
this was I think I only paid $2,200 for it.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It
Yeah.
was great. It was a fine.
Man.
I've been lucky like that. I didn't have it at that show, but I have like a 63 Jaguar that's incredibly beat up. Like it's spectacular. And I bought it off a guy in Ingersoll, Ontario, and it was a friend of his, and he bought it off his friend because his friend needed some cash, and he said, "Oh, when you want the guitar back, you just come get it back." And then the guy just was like, "Ah, just sell it," and he sold it to me for like $1,600 on Kijiji. And I went and
Wow.
met him at a Tim Hortons. It was like so weird and sketchy. And I was like, "Oh my God, is this legit?" And then we went to this Tim Hortons, and there it was. I was like, "Holy shit."
Pulls
It's
it
And
a
it
out
great
from
didn't
guitar.
need
behind a
it
dumpster.
didn't need a ton of work or anything?
The bridge pickup needed to be rewired a little bit. It was a little weird. And I had to
Yeah.
replace, did I replace all the switches? I can't remember. I think I replaced at least one switch. But other than that, yeah, it was like incredible. All the pots were original. Everything was like,
Oh,
it
wow.
was
That's
awesome.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very, very cool when that happens.
Oh,
Um,
it's like the holy grails of deals, when you that's what keeps you collecting though, because then you get hooked on like, oh, well, I found a couple great deals.
I
It's
can find
like
another
anything.
one.
So yeah, I've been lucky. I used
yeah.
to scour. I don't buy as much anymore. Now I'm in this place where I'm just fixing guitars, trying to make sure that everything I own, I could take to a gig if I wanted to, because I do have too many. I have a lot, more than I deserve. Thank you. That's right. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. That's right. Yep. Oh my God. Oh yeah. I mean, although the guys in my band are appreciators of it too. We all generally have some older gear. Um, and the amp thing is yeah, it's tricky. Because I use during the pandemic, I had a few silver face fenders. And during the pandemic, I was just on Kijiji, just looking for used stuff, and I thought it was, and then I found like a 68, no, 67 super reverb. And like I didn't really need a super reverb, but it was so clean. And I had a silver face super reverb, so I just swapped, like sold one, bought one, and I kept doing that. So then I ended up getting the super Vibrolux Deluxe Princeton. I got the quad, the whole line. And now it's like, so now people will be like, "Oh, this amp's great." I'm like, "Eh, I'm that kind of guy. I'm good. I got everything I ever wanted." and I buy silver tones. I love silver tones. So I have all the silver tone, like 1484. I have the 1486, 1485, 1484, 83, and 82. So from the 8-inch speaker, 12-inch speaker, 15-inch speaker, two 12s, and then the 410, which is the Jack White one, the one he used. So
I
I'm
feel
nerded. Is this a gear? Is this a gear podcast? I thought it was a gear podcast.
I
I've
was gonna
commandeered it.
say this sounds like one of those like late 1970s, early 80s radio call-in shows where you want to sell your gear that you have sitting in your closet. You give a nice description, how much you like for it,
Yeah.
and we invite callers in to make offers.
Mhm. Oh yeah. Oh, those are nice. Oh, yeah. Right. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, it is a fun thing. I got a couple of the Gibson Tweed ones, but I don't have any Fender Tweed. I've never found one that I came close to getting a Harvard, but I just didn't pull the trigger. Oh, I would love to. I'll have to like, yeah, okay, now you've planted a seed.
He's already started searching the dark places of the interweb.
Okay. Okay. I do not doubt that.
Wayne's already has his keys in his hand. He's about to walk out the
Yeah,
door.
I'm about to drive over right now.
Listen,
Yeah, no problem. Talk amps. Yes.
yeah, I'm sorry. I get a little carried away. There is a reason that we're actually having you on the show. You have a new album that's about to drop
Yes, sir.
September the 6th, is it?
6th, September
Breaking
6th.
Dawn.
Yes.
You got to be excited about that.
Yeah. Well, this one more than the others. I think the others we would all be together while recording. We always tended to record very quickly, in comparison to most bands, I would think. Like we
Right.
would record between 7 to 14 days, like start to done, mixed everything, and just moved really
Wow.
quickly. And then, but yeah, with this record, we were all spread out now. Everyone's got various things going on. So I started demoing, and it was also sort of it felt a lot more personal to me because it was the record is more about my coming to terms with my own mental health and my own ability to be an artist. And I also work in the music business. I'm a director of label operations at Sonic Onion in Hamilton, and then I also have artist management clients. So
Awesome.
it was tough to judge. For me, I got into this headspace where like I felt uninspired to be an artist while representing artists and working with artists. But then I don't know, the switch went off, and then I got really inspired. Sort of, we had planned to kind of start recording. We demoed some stuff in 2016, took a break, got back together, played a couple shows, and then we were like, okay, in March of 2020, we booked studio time. And then literally like the week before we were supposed to go in the studio, the pandemic was in full swing. So it all sort of got backburnered like so many artistic plans that year. So yeah, so eventually I don't know, like almost 2 years went by. It's the end of 2022 in September, and I just went and recorded to a click 20 songs. And then the guys and I all talked about it. We picked the ones we wanted to focus on. And then we just pieced it together, and we kind of did it like in a mobile way. Like engineer James McKinty we went to AJ's place, our drummer, and we did drums. He has a little home studio, so we did drums there
Nice.
with bass. Then our keyboard player Tom, who's a wonderful session musician, he has a studio behind his house. So we did all the keys there, did a lot of harmonies there because AJ and him both live in Guelph. And then I have a studio in St. Catharines, so we recorded most of the guitars there. I did some of the vocals there, and then I went, so it was like kind of all over. And then James mixed it at his place in Peterborough. So it was kind of a bit of a journey. So like the short version of like where we came from is it sort of felt like the band had hit a peak and we all wanted a break. So we decided, oh, we'll take a couple years off. It'd be good to just like go dormant for a bit and then we can
Right.
reemerge. And then that just snowballed into I had kids, we all have kids, so it's like it just became this thing that
Becomes
life
tough.
just kind of took over. Yeah. And then before you knew it, I was like, holy crap, it's been 10 years since when I started that in 2022, I was like, that was literally the 10-year anniversary of us putting out the last record, Union. So I thought, holy crap, like that's crazy. So, yeah, but it was good to kind of take our time. We worked on things slowly over the course of about a year and a half. And, yeah, I kind of really steered the ship more than I traditionally would have, for sure. Yeah, I've never been a fan of bands breaking up. I don't understand unless you're like truly hate each other.
Right.
I get it, you break up, but like, when bands are like, "Oh, we're doing our final shows," like, who gives a shit? Like, I don't care that it's just like don't play anymore. And then when you play, just now people will be excited, oh fuck, they're playing again. It's like the whole, when the Beatles broke up, people cared because they were the Beatles. But other than that, it's like no one cares that your band's breaking up. Like that sounds harsh. That sounds harsh. I don't mean it to be so mean, but like it's like just don't play anymore. You
Yeah.
know, you don't have to make a big thing about it. But and then a reunion tour 5 years later. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Sure. Yeah, just stop. I don't. But the whole like we're breaking up is like, oh, okay. But some people like, to close the book on something and
Yeah.
start a new book. But for me, it was always just we were just taking a break, that was much longer than any of us thought it would be. But now it's beautiful because when we play, it's like we look forward to the hangs because we all live in different cities now. So it's like the hangs are great, the shows are so much fun. We're so much more like, not that we ever weren't grateful to be able to play, but and to have people buy tickets to shows and stuff, but now it's just even more meaningful, that we've had so much time away from it. And also the pandemic makes you realize like, whoa, when everyone had to physically stop participating in that type of experience, like the live music thing is, you can't digitalize it. You can't undercut that. So it's a pretty awesome thing to be able to do, And I remember I was working with an artist named Jennifer Castle. I was managing her and lovely artist and so just spectacular. Music's incredible. And she would always say, like when you have the gift of song or like no matter what, it's important to just put it into the world. It doesn't matter if 8 people hear it or 8 million people hear it. It's the process. It's important. It's if it's in you, it's vital to put it out there. And I always found that helped me in my mindset as well. Just like that idea of like, it doesn't matter who listens to it at the end of the day. It's the journey of making it. Because actually the funny thing is on September 6th when the record comes out, it's just really Okay. In this day and age, it's just sort of like so many records come out. But it isn't about that for me. It wasn't about that. It wasn't putting it out and having people freak out about it. It was the process of making it. And I think that was the first time really, and since maybe the first record where you really felt like you had to make this first record or whatever. But after
You've
that, it kind of becomes we were putting out a record every 2 years, so it was like becomes mechanical and a necessity because we were trying to make a living.
with that much of a hiatus in between, have you found that the music has changed, that the writing has changed, different influence because of everybody's now has young families?
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. I found it was easier to be. I always tended to write lyrics that were. I always felt like I wanted the words to be relatable to everyone in the band and there were personal songs, but they weren't always specific, you know?
Yeah,
But with this record, I found it much easier to be honest and you know, put more out there.
yeah,
And I felt like as a dad or as a father that was an important thing to say, like, art is a beautiful way of navigating all your feelings in life, and it should be a reflection of where you're at in that time. That's why sometimes when artists are like, oh, I hated that song or I hated that record, it's like, yeah, there's maybe songs that I don't think are as amazing anymore, but I don't regret anything we ever recorded because it was a reflection of that period of time, and yeah, maybe some of it doesn't age well, but some of it does, so that's the beauty of it.
no, I think that's probably for I was going to say that's kind of like for any artist, whether they are a visual artist or a
Hmm.
writer or a musician, that same sentiment still applies.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's just it. It's like, of course, anyone who creates wants people to hear. Of course, they want people to hear it. I'd be lying if I said it didn't.
Right.
But at the same time, exactly what you said. It's like my life is wonderful, whether people like it or don't like it. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's like it wasn't. And it's like that. I remember seeing an interview with Iggy Pop years ago when Lust for Life was in Train Spotting, and then it became like he was licensing music right, left, and center. And of course, that was still in the '90s when it wasn't cool to do that. And I remember seeing an interview with him on Much Music, and he was just like, I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks about me licensing songs. It's like if you want to use Lust for Life to sell hot dogs, go ahead and pay me. I know what that song's about. It's my song. I wrote it for me. It's not for you. It's mine. And it was just like, he's like, it might mean something to someone else, but like, he was like, I don't give a shit. That's not my problem. It's not your song. I was just like, whoa, such a punk rock answer, to like selling out, or quote unquote selling out.
If
I
you're
don't
going to
think it
sell
is.
out, do it that way.
Yeah, do it in a way that's like own it,
Yeah,
just be
for
like, yeah, I
sure.
don't give a shit. This is my song and I can make money from it however I want to.
That's right.
So with that ethos, it's like, I feel like we've always sort of had an approach where we wanted to do what we wanted to do. And this is a case where the guys were super supportive in letting me really steer the ship and letting me navigate the things I wanted to navigate. And I always went into it that way. And then when we finished the record, and I thanked them for that, in an email, and I said, like, next record, the opposite. We'll all just get together and we'll still take our time again, I think, but be more of a group effort as opposed to just me. I feel like it was an important step for me to take to just to get back in the saddle and like, own it,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
awesome.
Yeah. Hmm. That's right. Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It is. It's very hard. I think typically also, like I said, everything was always sort of a first thought, best thought. Like I didn't do a lot of dissecting of lyrics. But Paul, the bass player who's been in the band with me since the get-go, I did sort of, he was sort of in the sidecar, next to the motorcycle with
For
me
sure.
because I told him straight up, I was like, I don't want a bad word, like a bad lyric on the record. I don't want to look back and regret it. Like it needs to be. So there's a couple songs that we rewrote like together. We would tweak some stuff or he'd be like, yeah, this doesn't sound as good. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Okay, so let's tweak that. And that was the first time we'd ever really done that. And I actually quite enjoyed that process and I would do that again for sure. I think it helped refine the thought because then you actually have to explain what it is you're trying to get across so that someone else understands and then they can sort of critique and help you get it there. And I had never, it's like an editor of a book, it's like someone was there to kind of help shape shape it. And I think for the most part, I'm really happy with how it all sounds. Like I don't have any
Well, it's great to
um
have that
regrets about
person
it.
to that you actually trust and has really been down the journey with you and understands
Hmm.
what you're trying to convey.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Paul's like my oldest friend. We've known each other since public school,
Oh, that's
elementary
awesome.
school. Not public. Yeah, we always went to public school. No, that's right. Very hard. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Right. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. There's and Tom Petty was always really good at that. Like not all his lyrics are mind-blowing, but for the most part, I think he was really good at saying a simple thing in a poetic way that like, won't back down. Songs like that are just like you can't not relate to it, you know. Anybody can relate to it. It's kind of he's great at it. And Jason was great at it too, yeah. Yeah, and just keep it simple and like, oh man,
Not
yeah.
everybody's going to understand.
It says so much, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think ultimately 10 made the record. And then there's like little that ended up having to be it's funny. I kind of made this record that would have been perfect for vinyl era, and we do obviously still sell vinyl, but in the streaming platforms, it made it quite complicated because I had these sort of lengthy interludes in between the songs. Not
Okay.
lengthy, but they'd be 15 to 25 seconds. And but then I realized, well, shit, I can't have like a 20 song album on streaming platforms. It's weird. Like the algorithm doesn't generally love that. So then you're like, okay, and then I tack them onto the end of songs, but then the songs will be super long and the algorithm doesn't really like really long songs either. So I was like, anyways, we had to just like shorten them and bury them at the end of songs. But yeah, it's kind of a journey for sure.
Sounds like it's set up for vinyl.
Yeah, it is. And I actually just picked up the vinyl today.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so it's done and ready to go. Yeah, I haven't
That's
listened
still
to it
kind of
yet, but
exciting.
I mean, I listened to the test pressing and it was great, but
Right.
yeah.
So
That's a
you're
different way to
releasing.
record though.
Go
You know,
ahead,
so
Lance.
when you say like, you know, vinyl, the albums used to be old school. We'd all be in one room and we're recording an album kind of thing. But this is
Hmm.
the new way to do things when we're challenged geographically to be.
Yeah, I mean, recording digitally is just too um affordable and like it's just easier.
Yeah,
You know, we've done records to tape and it's great, but it's you know, it's definitely a little bit more labor intensive
right.
for sure.
So is there a tour coming after this, or are we on one right now?
Y-
I
Yeah, no,
apologize for
we
not
haven't
knowing.
no, 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 it's okay. The tour doesn't really start until November. So we're doing a few dates in November, December, and then um we might be doing some stuff out west in the winter, but we'd be flying out to do some things. And then there's a few shows. We're gonna do some more stuff in the spring and then into next summer. But sort of
Fantastic.
spreading it out. Yeah.
Right, right. Because as you said, everybody's a dad and everybody's got stuff,
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
different now.
Other jobs, other gigs. Yeah. Yeah.
How's the
Oh,
family
that's
been with the
fantastic.
touring?
Uh, well, I'm at a point now where my kids are 10 and 8, so it's like it's definitely easier.
Yeah, for sure.
And they like it. They're pretty spoiled because they get my youngest son, if I'm like, hey, we're gonna go to this show, and he was always like, do we get to go backstage? Yeah, at this one we do. And then occasionally we'll go to a show and we're like, no, I'm not working with any of the artists, or it's not my show, so there's no backstage. And he'll be like, you know, he's got, it's not as fun.
I'm gonna
But
ditch
Like
this
going
one.
without
I don't.
connections.
yeah, but they're generally okay. And we don't do anything more than like a week.
Yeah,
Like we used to do the big long tours, but if
Yeah.
that, to be honest, if I'm being honest, even for younger artists, like that approach is a bit antiquated. It's grinding it out on the road doesn't really work anymore. I mean, it does. You still get to reach people and you have the live music experience is still powerful, but there aren't as many clubs, especially in Canada. Like those drives are really long now.
yeah.
And you just really can't play the smaller towns as much anymore to a certain degree, like certain artists can. And, it's a tricky thing to navigate. So doing long-winded tours to me is just not a necessity like it used to be.
Well, you're a
So
little bit
explain that,
more.
Wayne.
Go
Just
ahead,
yeah,
Lance.
no, just bring us up to speed. So how, because we talk about this a lot on this podcast, but we talk a lot about sort of the status of live music, where it's going. Are people saving all their you know, quarters to spend $1,000 to see Taylor Swift, or are they are they willing to see, you know, $50, $60 tickets to see really great local bands? And now you're
Yeah.
right, there's a decline in clubs. I seem to fight the fight all the time here in KW about and I really do. I empathize with the position of a lot of these clubs. They're maybe now not hurting after the pandemic, but they certainly were. But really, the needle hasn't moved. The price of the food and the beer they sell has all gone up, and they paid
Yeah.
the bands what I was making back in my 20s. You
Yeah.
know, meanwhile, guitars,
Yeah.
gas, strings, everything's gone up. So, yeah, what do you think? But what's the status of live music? Are we going in
Well,
the right direction or the wrong? What's going on? What do you think?
um, well, I don't, in some ways, it's like many things in the world, like the working class is suffers the most, you know. So, um, like I know I was just doing a session the other week with a pedal steel player at my studio, and he's like 26, incredible. Like pitch was amazing, he's a great player, and I just thought, man, if this guy was born like 10, 20 years ago, he'd be a full-time musician. But for him, it's like he hasn't even he wants to be, but it's hard for him to even wrap his head around how that would be a possibility. And that's mostly because, yeah, like there aren't as many touring bands that you can play with regularly. Um, but I do think, yeah, the small club thing is tough. But for me, it lies in the kids right now that are like teenagers, early 20s. You know, it's like the next wave of people who want to do it have to create a network for themselves, you know? And the networks that we had, some of them are gone, you know? Like the Starlight in Waterloo is
Right.
like that didn't make
Yeah.
it. And like, there's so many great clubs that we used to play that aren't there anymore. And but that doesn't mean that it's dying. I just think that it's changing. So touring is still a thing. Just think you need to be more strategic about it. Like, it's just harder to go out for long periods of time and grind it out unless you can make a certain amount of money. And
Right.
because to your point, like, gas is expensive, hotels are more expensive, food's more expensive. Everything about it is flights. Everything's just like, holy smokes. Like, when you do a tour budget now, it's tight,
Yeah.
So it's
And most guys have another job to come home to, right? Because that's not going to float the boat.
100%. Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Canada, it's like you do, like you said, I want to be an artist, and I'm also representing other artists, and I'm working for this other company. And that's kind of the secret of it. I don't know if you say being a musician or just a Canadian musician, but
Yeah, well,
we
I think
put
arts
things
in
together.
general, yeah, you need to diversify what it is that you're doing. Like, you need to write, perform. Like, I manage bands, I work at a label, I own a studio. Like, you have to have a lot of pokers in the fire, otherwise
Right.
you can't just, it's like any business really though. Like, you can't just have one product, eventually that'll burn out. So you gotta like have other things that you can do. And you know, sometimes that can be teching for other bands or tour managing or picking up side gigs. I used to do the side gig thing quite a bit too. So,
Right. Right. Well, like,
but
and Andrew's got, like, he does this podcast, and he's a world famous photographer, male gigolo.
yeah,
I mean, he's got cash coming
he's
in all over the place.
he's got to figure it out.
Hey, it's
Yeah.
the gigolo thing that really fills the
Pays the
pockets,
bills.
though. Yeah,
Yeah, no
exactly.
doubt.
Feeds the
No
family.
doubt.
I was
Yeah.
hoping to slide that in and not get caught. But anyway.
Oh no. Now I'm gonna have to admit this to my wife, but thankfully she doesn't actually listen to the podcast, so I'm good.
Oh, that's good.
You know what?
That's good.
Long
Yeah.
as I can keep her in
You're
her.
in a safe place, Andrew. You're in a safe place.
That's fantastic. Wayne, how did you hook up with the guys from Blue Rodeo? How did that all come together?
We first played with them, oh my God, like 21 years ago. We were young, very in our early 20s. We opened for them at Oshawa at the hockey arena, which
Oh,
is where we were
fantastic.
all originally from, which was super exciting. And then we get a few more shows here and there. And I'm trying to think. You know what it was, truly? So they knew us, then they knew who we were and
Yeah.
stuff. And then in 2000, was what around 2007, summer of 2007, we played the Regina Folk Festival, and we were on before them. And we had just gotten a new guitar player named Dale Murray, who's Anne Murray's nephew. And he played with it, and it really sort of matured the sound of the band, like his presence, because now we had like harmonies, and it really elevated the band. And I noticed throughout that show that they all came up and watched, which had never happened before. Like Greg would, or like, a little bit, but like they were all like
Right.
just watching. Oh shit, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then that led to a bunch of tour dates. So then they had us open the next year, 2008. We did a bunch of tour dates with them. And then that led to Greg saying, you should come record at my farm. The Sadies have been out. I'm like, yeah, we're like, shit, that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
So then
Nice.
he ended up recording our last 3 records, Way Down Here, Morning Comes, and Union. We did at his place. So
Wow.
yeah, and then when we recorded the first record with him, Dale and I used to do this thing where we would like stack our harmonies. So like we would double all the harmonies.
Right.
So they would just be this lush, like, what's
Cacophony
that?
of sound.
Yeah,
Thing.
very thick. They kind of cut through, and he liked how we did that. I'm trying to think of what's the producer that did that. Oh, what's the guy from ELO? Why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Oh, I don't have the
Oh,
answer to that.
yeah.
He produced a lot of Tom Petty stuff too. Anyway, point
Okay.
is, that's what we were ripping on, and so Greg was really into it. So then he called me while they were making one of their records and said, "Oh, are you and Dale around to come in and sing backups on a song of a new Blue Rodeo song?" And I was like, "Holy shit!" Well, Dale's out on tour with Matt Mays right now, but I'm doing nothing, you know.
I'll do it. There you
Yeah,
go.
and he's like, "All right, well, come in tomorrow." So I went in, and sang on this tune. And the thing is, he wanted this because we would do these high falsettos. And so he wanted me to sing above Jim because he can't sing above Jim generally.
Right.
Yeah.
Jim was the high harmony guy. Greg's like a master of the low harmony.
Yeah.
And so I sang this falsetto above Jim on a Jim song. And he
That's
loved
not
it.
easy, man. That's
No.
like, there's not a lot of guys singing higher
That-
or above Cuddy.
No.
Congratulations.
Well, in a falsetto, mind you, like I
Yeah,
wasn't
Okay.
full
that's-
voice in it,
but-
but still,
but
yeah, I could get
still,
above him.
Credit
And
where credit's due.
He loved it. And then they called me, I think the next day or 2 days later, and were like, "Hey, can you come and do 2 more?"
That's
I was
crazy.
like, "Yeah, no problem." So I came in, I sat, and they played me the song. He gave me the words, and then I went and just sang this harmony. And Jim was like, "Man, you learned that really quick?" And I said to him at the time, I was like, "Man, these new songs, they resonated with me. Like they sounded so familiar. Like that. It was the All the Things We Left Behind album. And that record to me is still one of my favorite Blue Rodeo records, obviously because I was a part of it. But like the songs there sounded like I don't know, creatively, I just identified, like they just instantly made sense to me melodically. So everything I was recording with, and this is the other thing they love, is when you work quickly. They don't want to hear some guy struggle.
Yeah.
So I got it. It was just boom, ba, boom, boom. Anything they threw at me, I just knocked down because it really connected with me. And I
Made
told them, I
sense.
was like, honestly, these songs, I don't know what it is, but I get it. Like what you're singing, I know exactly where you're going. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's not because you're predictable or anything. It was just a thing. So then that happened, and I ended up singing on I think there's 12 songs on that record, and I sang on 11 of them. So when they put out that record later that year, they asked me to tour with them to sing those parts.
Sure.
And then Cuff the Duke opened that tour. And then at the end of that tour, this was leading into, I'm trying to think. I think it led into the Olympics in Vancouver. And they're like, "Oh, you should come out and do the shows with us at the Olympics." I said, "Okay, that'd be wicked." So we
Wow.
did we did this one show and like 35,000 people or something. Like it was crazy. And then we did at the beginning of the Olympics. And he said, so I was doing the new songs. I was only singing on the new songs. I would leave the stage. And so I was up on stage and they played a bunch of the new tunes, and then they were going to go in and play some of the old hits. And as I was about to put my guitar down, Jim's like, "Well, do you know these?" I said, "Yeah, I know these for sure." He's like, just stay up. And, if you hear a thing, you can sing it. And then, so they did 5 days in May.
July or in May. Sorry. Yeah.
In May, the song.
Right.
And there's a 3rd part harmony on the record that's sort of kind of buried. It's there. And, I learned to sing harmonies to that record. So like I knew that harmony. And it was like this harmony that's sort of intertwined, and I tweaked it a little so to make sure I didn't hit any bad notes. And I sang it, and Jim like glared at me, and like literally we're in front of like a shit ton of people.
Yeah.
And he glared at me, and I thought, "Oh fuck!" It's like that classic like James Brown thing where he's like docking you money or whatever. I was like, "Oh shit!" And I sang it, and I backed away from the mic, and I kind of looked at him with this like, "Oh man, I'm sorry." And he came over and he's like, "That was fantastic."
Oh,
and I was like, "Oh."
He's got an intimidating look, though.
Yeah,
he
man.
does, right?
Here
I'll
you
tell you
thought
what.
that you have just screwed up the rest of your
I thought I had
career
just
at
done it.
that point.
And he loved it. And then the next song came about, and he's like, "Hey, can you just double my harmony in the falsetto on this one?" I go, "Yeah, no problem." And I did it, and he was like, "Oh." And that was it. I got the gig for like 3 years playing with him because he just fell in love with that for a while.
That's crazy.
And then but there was one night though, I don't remember where we were, but I was playing, and I can't remember what song it was. But I had worked out, there was no 3-part harmony on the song, but I had worked it out. And they were cool with me riffing, like when I wanted to try stuff.
Right.
And this one thing, I sang the 3-part harmony. Didn't quite nail it. I had like one section where I was like, "Oh, fuck, I didn't exactly get that," but it was pretty good. And then he looked over at me, and I thought, "Oh shit, that's definitely not. That's not the good look."
He caught me this
Yeah,
time.
Yeah.
And he came over and he goes, "Just double it." Because I had been doubling his part, and he was like, just double it. I was like, "Got it. Yeah, no problem. I'll just double it."
Gotcha,
And then I
boss.
never Never did that one again.
But guaranteed nobody in the crowd picked it up. That's totally a musician
No,
thing that,
no,
you know, you
no.
guys heard and stuff. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. It was a subtle mistake, but it was also, yeah. So he got into that. And then when my tenure in the band ended, Colin was already in the fold, Colin Cripps. And then I remember he texted me saying, "Can you give me a voice memo of whatever this harmony is you do in 5 days? Because Jim wants me to do it." I was like, oh, kind of devastated, but I sent it to him.
Oh,
Ah.
no, that's awesome. It was actually
Uh,
Colin that I reached out to get your contact information to kind of put us together because I knew that you had the new album coming up. He goes,
Oh,
I just
cool.
sent him a message through Instagram. Beautiful.
Nice. Yeah, Colin's great. I love Colin.
yeah,
That's a
there's
pretty cool
another
story,
gearhead,
though.
eh?
Oh my God. Yeah, he was there. He helped me buy my I have a 65 Casino.
Oh,
And
nice.
my aunt had passed away, and she lived in the beaches not far from 12th Fret. And so she had passed away, and I was she had no children, and I was the executor of her estate. And so I was clearing out the house, and we were doing all the things. And so I would take breaks and go over to the 12th Fret and just look at guitars. And then once it was
It's a
all
dangerous
settled,
thing to do, man.
yeah, well, but I inherited a little bit of money, nothing crazy, but most of it I just kind of banked away. But I made sure I
Yeah.
left a little chunk. And this casino popped up one of the last days before we sold our house. And I was like, oh, and I called Colin, like, you got to come play this guitar. I need your thoughts on it. I want to get it. I don't know. And then he came over and it got the Colin Cripps stamp of approval. So I'm like, all right.
That's
And
the
actually,
one.
I played that at that show in Kitchener. I had that casino in Kitchener.
Yes, you did. Because I
Yeah.
remember I had just picked up a 65 Riviera. So they all came out of Kalamazoo,
Oh,
right?
wicked. That's right. Yep. Yep.
And I loved it. And so that's why I remember saying, because my wife and I went with, well, Andrew and his wife were like a row behind us for that concert.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we were with my keyboard player and his wife. And
Nice.
and I have to be careful because I can totally annoy everybody when I'm with, because I'll geek out over, it's like, I love this guy's guitars. Like, I think that's a casino. I've got the Riviera. I was like, I definitely play that guitar on this song too. I agree with that. And
Right.
it's just funny
Nice.
'cause people with me is like, can you just shut up? How about that?
Yeah,
Can you
stop
Just
talking.
want to
It's
listen
like,
to the
yeah,
music.
but that's such a great guitar
I know.
choice. And
I
you're
do that.
just like,
I do that too with my wife when we go see Wilco or something. I'm like, oh my God, Kimmy's playing the blah blah blah. And she's
yeah,
like,
yeah,
come on, dude.
She
But she's
doesn't
used to it
care.
now. But
yeah, yeah. Kim's eyes will glaze over, just like whatever.
yeah,
Actually, it's funny. No, we won't go down this trail, but I've noticed that Capsule has been putting up a couple of
the Jeff
Tweedy's
Tweedy
guitars.
stuff.
Yeah.
They
So
just
somebody must
posted.
have been getting rid of some stuff.
Yeah, they just posted one of Pat Sansone's guitars too.
Is that a the senior? It's made by Gibson, but it's a Kalamazoo something.
Yeah,
They had an
there
acoustic
was
up.
a Kalamazoo acoustic. He had a
Yeah,
parts caster like Strat.
that's right.
And
With
then
like a
and then Pat is selling like a reissue thin line, I think, from like a 70s reissue or an 80s or something.
yes.
And
Yeah.
but they're all like the Capsule guys, the Wilco guys always go to Capsule when they're in town. Like if
They do.
Wilco are playing Toronto,
Yeah.
you should just go hang out at Capsule all day because they'll show up at some point.
Yes. We have that we have Folkway in KW.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And
Beautiful
and
store.
beautiful store, and Mark is like one of the best luthier guys.
Oh my
Like,
God, yeah.
just to take guitars apart and put them back together is insane.
No, it's incredible.
As much as I love him and I love that store, God, I wish they'd move. They're killing me.
I know.
It's like living
Yeah.
next door to, it's like, please leave.
It's dangerous for
He'll
sure.
just text
it is
you with the new guitar that's come in anyway. It doesn't matter how far away you are. He'll find you.
That's
That's
true.
right.
He's evil like that. But now I'll get Wayne's cell and then I can just forward that information to Wayne. So I've got
Yeah.
another, it's like a
Yeah.
close-knit group. Say,
Let's
Wayne,
tread lightly.
I can't get this guitar, but you can
should.
get this guitar.
I get those texts from a few friends of mine, like, "Oh, dude, I just found this. I can't pull the trigger, but thought you might want it." I'm like, "Ah,
Yes.
yeah.
I know.
Why are you doing this to me?"
I don't know. I got to get rid of my kids, man. They're too expensive.
Tell me about it. Tell me about
it. Every time they need something, it's like, oh, this is cutting into the guitar fund. This
I
is
think
hard.
I say that to my wife all the time. She's like, "Should we do this vacation?" I'm like, that sounds like a nice vintage jazz master to me, but
Yeah. Maybe we just
know
go
if
to
I
St.
wanna spend
Jacobs
that
this
much.
year. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Lovely. It's a
Why don't
little
we just
village.
do 2 days at Great Wolf Lodge and call it a day?
Mhm.
Yeah. Let me tell you what I'm living with, Wayne. I've got two boys, and one is 21, 22. So they're young men now. And
Oh yeah.
but they haven't been to so anyway, so I was explaining to one of them as I was listening to this comedian that I really enjoy. He's very dark, Anthony Jeselnik. I don't know if you've heard of him. But
Oh
you
no, I haven't.
definitely
No.
yeah, you definitely have to check your sensitivity meter at the door.
Right.
He's not like completely offside or something, but he's very
Right.
quick-witted and you don't see a lot of this stuff coming. And so anyway, I told him this joke that Anthony Jeselnik talks about, and it references pallbearer. And my son
Oh yeah.
says, I don't know what a pallbearer is, Dad. I'm like, oh, that's somebody who carries a casket at a funeral. So, for instance, at my funeral, you might be one of my pallbearers, and didn't even skip a beat. He said, Dad, I can't be a pallbearer at your funeral. My hands will be full for guitars for sale. Like,
Oh.
is that not cold?
What
He
an
Oh.
didn't even
ass.
skip a beat. He's like, Dad, I
Oh.
couldn't possibly carry your casket. My hands will be filled with guitars for sale. It's like, oh,
Oh.
wow.
Cold. Not
Yeah,
even in the
Well, I
ground
know that
yet,
you
for God's sakes.
I know.
you
It's
want it to be
terrible.
buried with it, yet
Yeah.
he's selling it.
Yeah.
I know. He likes his sneakers, his Jordans. Every once in a while,
Yeah.
I'll come down to my music studio, and he's got like a calculator, and he's looking up. I was like,
Oh
what
my
are you
God.
Adding it
doing?
all up.
The sneakers. My 10-year-old son's already into the sneakers. Although I'm guilty
Yeah.
of that too. I'm not like hardcore collector, but I do appreciate a good shoe that looks cool. So
Yeah, I'm with
yeah.
you on that. But I mean, I don't have any shoes that are worth, $300. He
No, God,
does.
no. No,
So,
yeah. Yeah,
whatever.
my oldest currently will one day be that guy for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. He's going down that trail.
I
Oh
just
yeah.
want the pair
Yeah.
that's going to make me run the fastest. Like, what color is it? Is it red? Is it blue? Is it green? I'm going
Yeah.
with red. It's the fastest, clearly.
It's the fastest.
That's all I care
Always.
about.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to
I
be
had to,
$300 or signed
well,
by Lance Dawson, but
yeah. He's
something
explained to me.
fast.
This is heartbreaking because I had to explain
There's a
to my
whole
son.
culture around it.
No, I know, but
Yes.
I explained to him, I said, listen, man, I was born in the 1900s. And so uh, I had an original pair of those Jordans when they first came out, for $50 or whatever they were. And
Mhm.
he explained to me, he said, Dad, if you just hung on to that, they're worth about 10 grand or whatever, I'm
Yeah,
like,
some
"What?"
disturbing amount. I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is disturbing. So,
But really, who thought at that time that sneakers were going to be worth anything?
Yeah. Oh, I know. It's wild though. I've been into a couple stores when I've been traveling that have like the vintage shoes and they'll be like shrink wrapped.
Yeah.
yeah, you
I've
can't
seen
even try
those.
them
Like,
on. You
no,
can't
no,
touch them. You
no,
can't
no,
try them
no.
on.
No. This place you could pick them up if you asked, but there was definitely no trying them on. But
No.
those guys aren't necessarily even buying them to wear them. They're buying them to collect them. You
Right.
know, it's like so
Just
it
for
is what it is.
display up on a shelf behind you, just like a piece of art.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's weird though. Like I've been into some pretty nice guitar stores like Mackenzie River or whatever down in Oregon. They've got like
Yep.
old Martins on the wall and stuff. And I remember at the time, the guy's like, "Hey man, if you want to play one, go ahead." And I'm like, you know what? I don't think I want to touch a $110,000 guitar.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's right.
maybe this cheap piece of crap for 20 grand. I'll try
Yeah.
that one, whatever. But it's nice. Like it's funny because you go into a store like that and they've got beautiful instruments that are old and they're very valuable. And I don't know whether they just kind of scope out the person that they're talking to and say, if you want to play that, you can go ahead. And I do, and it's great. But then I've been in other guitar stores that don't sell that kind of stuff. And they're
Yeah.
just like, everything's under lock and key. And I'm like, this is under lock and key? What is wrong with you? Don't you
No, I
want
know.
young kids to come in and play this stuff and be excited?
That's how you plant the seed to make them want
Yeah,
it. I know.
100%. I don't know. I don't get it, but
I don't get it either. Well, it's like people who buy the guitars and then don't play them live. Like I
yeah,
mean, I obviously have everything insured and like I don't, I'm not too attached to any one particular guitar. So I wouldn't be devastated if something was lost. It would be upsetting, but not, wouldn't ruin me or whatever. But it's, they're meant to be played, like
right.
you have these instruments and these tools. It's like, it's part of the joy of collecting is being able to pull them out and play them and then have for moments like this. I like live for moments like this when someone's like, "Oh, I saw you play those nice guitars." It's like,
Yeah,
nice. Thank you.
Here we go.
Well,
I
it
put
just
a,
it
I
for
put a
guys
lot
who
of freaking
get
effort
it,
into that. Yeah.
That's right. And I'm with you. That's why, I'll be playing somewhere and it's, I probably shouldn't, but even Mark at Folkway would say, because he'll phone me and say, "Hey, remember that deluxe you bought years ago? You know what that's worth now?" I'm like, should I be gigging with that thing? And he goes, yeah, that's what it's for. I'm
Yeah,
like,
that's what
oh,
it's
right.
for.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's a
I have a
little
surf rock
unnerving.
gig where I play like a 62 Tremolux, like with the 210
Oh,
cab
wow.
and the head and a
Yeah. Yeah.
reverb tank, and a small mid 60s Princeton with a Jazzmaster, a 64 Jazzmaster.
As you would for a surf sound. Yeah.
You got to. And
You got
then
it.
like sometimes I'll sit it up on stage and we're doing this outdoor gig and I'll just think like, that's like $15,000 worth of stuff right there.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
I'm not even sure the
I didn't pay that
Jazzmaster's
much for it.
included.
No,
No,
but
but the
that's what it's
Yeah.
for.
Jazzmaster's not included in that. That's just the amp rig.
Yeah.
Because now, let me ask you a quick question. I know we're gonna lose Andrew. Never mind our listeners. We're gonna
Yeah.
lose
Sorry,
Andrew.
Andrew.
No,
Sorry.
it's all
But
good.
um,
I
I
am
just
more than used to it.
I know you are. Last year I picked up a 64 reverb tank, and it is so different. It's so beautiful, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
different than a pedal. It acts as a preamp. Do you find that, like, I never thought that my Fender Deluxe could ever sound any better? And it doesn't come with
Oh,
reverb. You have a reverb pedal or
through the
whatever.
vintage
The
tank is
tank,
incredible.
I'm like, oh my gosh,
Oh yeah.
I might never leave my basement.
I use it in the studio. I don't tour with it anymore, but I have a K reverberator. It's a small
Yeah.
narrow box. It's
Wow.
solid state reverb,
Okay.
but it is the most incredible preamp for any amp. So often I'll use it in the studio. I don't even use the verb because it isn't
Right.
like the most mind-blowing verb. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I'll just turn it on because it's like a click-on switch. So you click it
Okay.
on, and then the more you turn it, the more verb. So I'll
Right.
just click it on and then turn it so that there's no verb and just use it as the preamp. And I've never once used that in the studio and not had the guitar player be like, how much, like, how can I want one of those? I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Why
Found
are you
it at
doing it?
Capsule for like $200 years ago.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
That
And
is
I've
nuts.
never seen one since, to be honest.
Really?
I know different companies have them. I don't think I've ever seen a K one either, right?
The K one, no, it's super random.
Yeah. I wonder if that happens though for any of those old reverb tanks. You know what I mean? Like if I just turn down, because it's a separate one on the Fender one. You've got a verb knob.
Yeah.
But I'm in the party that, says, hey, I love reverb, but I don't want to hear it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's
Right, right.
on and it's
Yeah.
there, and you don't know it's there unless I turn it off. And then you're like, oh, what happened? But
Yeah.
I don't need it to be like in my face. That's not what
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
that's kind of why I love this doing the surf rock stuff because I get to just pin it. And
yeah.
that's why I run
That's
two
cool.
amps because I don't do a full wet drive. I'll just have a touch of reverb on the Princeton, but
Right.
gives it a bit more focus. But it's fun to like when in that genre, of course, just kind of
Right.
lay into it and you get all the spanky reverb sounds and stuff. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. It's all wonky and stuff. That's
Mhm.
cool. That's
Yeah.
cool. Wayne, this has been great. I mean, it's been great for me. I can't speak for Andrew, but this has been great for
Yeah.
me.
You know what? It has been really cool. Like we are coming up on our hour here. Is there any closing thoughts that you wanted to leave us with about the new album? What you're hoping that fans will get out of it?
Well, I hope they just have their own, you know, journey through listening to it, and hopefully they can relate to aspects of it. I think it's a great album for vinyl in particular. Like it's the way that it flows has a really nice aesthetic for vinyl. It was sort of designed like that. You can order it from our website too,
Okay, so that was
cufftheduke.com.
my question. You can order the album on vinyl through your
Yeah,
website, which is
cufftheduke.com.
okay.
Cufftheduke.com.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Or .ca. They both go to the same spot.
Okay. So
But
what?
it's
Yeah.
and so then we have and then it's there'll be shows. There's show tickets available on the site, the records available. We also, you might like this too, is that I have on our Instagram and TikTok account, I'm doing a segment called Gear and Beer, where we're just about to finish season 1. I have season 2 recorded, where I just quickly talk about each guitar that I own, and I haven't even got to my amps yet, but I got the guitar, and then we have a different beer for each guitar,
That's
and
wicked.
Oh, nice.
they're like no more than a minute, but they're quick and fun.
Yeah.
Check those out. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok. Trying to
Well,
get those
you
things
could just
rolling.
keep that going. Like you could do yours and come down, go through mine, And then
No,
we'll
this
just
is
pick somebody else, go to
this
Colin.
is
Colin's going to be like 30 episodes, right? Like,
that's my plan is to
yeah,
finish out all my stuff and then move into when there's artists in town, have them come by my studio. We'll quickly do a gear thing with them, or I'll just go to the venue. But I definitely want to do one with Colin,
That's
Greg,
great.
Jim. I got lots of friends that have some great stuff. A friend of
yeah.
mine, Ryan. So
I,
yeah.
I think Colin's helped Jim out. Like, at
Oh, a
least
bunch of
that's what he said.
times.
He's like,
Yeah,
every
yeah.
time Jim needs a guitar, he's like, yeah,
Colin's
whatever.
Colin's actually a wonderful connector, and he kind of brokers a lot of deals. Like he'll find
Yeah.
guitars for people all the time. It's amazing.
Yeah.
He's found Jim a couple really nice, and Greg actually.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
I try not to, because he said to me, he said, if you need something, let me know. And I'm like, dude, I don't shop in your snack bracket. I'm not
Oh
calling
yeah, no, that's
calling you to go guitar shopping unless you're going to
oh
handle my divorce costs as well. If you can handle that.
that's right. Or
And
remortgaging
maybe
my
you'll be
house.
allowed.
Yeah,
Yeah. I was
yeah.
like,
Lance will
be
also
all
be
over it.
sleeping on your couch, but
Yeah. Is that
Yeah.
okay? I'll tell you what, why don't we do this? I will get the album on vinyl and then we'll slide down to St. Catharines. You can sign the album and we'll talk guitars for a couple hours.
Actually, if you pre-order it right now, you get an autographed copy.
Is this your way of telling me not to come to St. Catharines?
I think
feel
No,
like
still
that's-
come to
no,
St.
no,
Catharines.
it's too late for that. He just said, well, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to send you an autograph.
No,
Guys. Don't come to St. Catharines. I'm a
send your
Niagara Falls guy,
guitars
dude.
down. Send
Yeah.
your guitars down so he can peruse them. He'll send
Yeah,
you
that's no
back.
problem.
We don't need to see
Well,
Lance in
yeah.
person.
Now I've become a total nerd because I have my good friend Nick, who plays in the surf rock band with me. He'll come and tech and stuff, and he has a van, and he just because all the gear's in St. Catharines in a locker for the
Right.
most part, or at my studio.
Yeah.
So he helps me a lot, and it's amazing. He's a good friend of mine too. So, but it enables me to bring like 5 or 6 guitars sometimes to a show, not
Right.
because I need to, but just because I want to,
Yeah.
because it's fun.
Yeah.
I always tell the
exactly.
guys in the band, like if I had ever been like a Jim Cuddy or a Greg, I definitely would have toured with at least 12 guitars.
Oh, for sure. Why
Why
wouldn't
not?
Yeah. Well, that's
got them.
Colin does 6, and
Colin does 6, yeah.
and he takes a lot of heat for that. He said, and then
Oh, he sure does.
he was intimating that he was for some reason he must know the guitar tech for the Edge or something because he was underneath the
yeah.
stage, and he
Yeah.
said he's got like 80 guitars down here, and
Yeah,
I'm getting beef for 6.
yeah.
And I'm on a much smaller scale than you guys, and I get, I take 3, and the drummer is always on me. He goes, "What are you 3?" And you're always tuning them. Are they crap? You know what I mean? He's always busting me because he'll go on YouTube, and if he finds like a Cuff the Duke video and Wayne's only playing like one guitar or something, I hear about it. He goes, "Hey, look at this guy. He's so good that he only has one guitar, and I didn't see him tune it once."
Yeah, I get that from the guys sometimes, and like, Willie Nelson just has trigger. So
One
I'm
guitar.
like, right, but Jesus, that's boring. I'm sure he's a great dude, but no offense, that's fucking boring.
And of all of us, he can afford all of the
Yeah,
guitars.
exactly.
Look at
Exactly.
Jackson Brown. He shows up with an 18-wheeler
Oh,
filled with
totally.
guitars, which is
Yeah.
funny to me because I always thought he was a keyboard guy. He's like,
Yeah.
this huge collection of guitars. It's nuts.
So,
Because
yeah.
really, the truth is, tell me about this, Wayne. But I've always said like an acoustic and a Telecaster gets me through any night. Really.
Yeah, for me, it's a Gretsch. The Gretsch thing, I can go into any amp, no pedals, and that one Gretsch I have will always sound good. And I can do,
That's cool.
It doesn't do acoustic things, but I do love an acoustic but a Telly's right there too, though. I do love the Telly.
Like a utility. My Gretsch is I've got a one they call the Smoke. It's like it's a 59 replica of Brian Setzer's.
Yeah,
and then what I did with that is I had because Mark had one. He had an actual 59, which was crazy price, but I loved it.
Wow.
And anyway, so I got a really good deal on this Smoke one because I think they're like $5,000. I didn't pay that. So and then I took it to a buddy of mine that does professional relicking, and he aged all the hardware.
Oh, cool.
And he made
that's
it look
cool.
almost identical to the other 59. And they've got the Ray Butts pickups in it.
Oh,
so
nice.
Yeah. So it looks like exactly like a 59, and it plays with like modern reliability.
Right.
So,
Which is
and
nice.
that ends our public service announcement for today.
People, there's no end to gear. It's okay. Oh, I always have a
no
saying
end to
too. I'll
gear.
leave you on this note. This is a good one.
Okay. I like there's
When
no
my-
end to gear. Let's make a t-shirt. That's great.
Exactly. Well, because this is the t-shirt that I want to make is when my wife says, how many guitars do you really need? And I'll always just say one more.
Yeah. X plus one. I hear you.
Yeah, I just
That's-
need one more, you know. Just
I like
can
the
never have
cartoon.
too
I
many.
sent this to my family group chat. This podcast is disintegrating. I sent this to my family group chat. It's a cartoon of a guy in an apartment building and it's on fire and the fireman's coming up the ladder and he's handing him 3 or 4 guitars.
Guitars.
Take these. I'm going back for
Oh
the
my
wife
gosh.
and kids.
I actually in our basement, I have a bunch of guitars on the wall.
Yeah.
And as you go down the stairs, immediately to the left, there's 3 hooks for guitars. And I always put, if I have them out, I'll put my favorite ones there. And I always think, just in case of a fire, I could bolt down, reach around, grab them, and then head out the door.
Ooh, that's
how
a
I think about
brilliant
it.
thing. My wife, as all moms are so much better, the quality control on moms are so much better. So we would talk about when the kids were younger. She would talk about an exit plan if our house was
Oh
on
yeah,
fire.
yeah.
And it was so bad. I got in so much shit for this because she'd say, well, where do we go if the house is on fire? We got to go downstairs and start grabbing guitars, like Dad said.
Oh my
I'm getting
God.
so much wrong. And I'm like,
Lance.
honey, I didn't say the amps. I know they're heavier. It's just the guitar.
Lance,
It's
all you need is a
so
good
funny.
reach around. That's it. Take
I know,
Wayne's
I know.
advice.
Well,
Yeah,
she would say, and Wayne will get this too, because she would say at one point, yeah, and when kids are young, they're sick every other day, right? And
Yeah.
my wife would say, so let me get this straight. Our kids are upstairs with strep throat,
Yes.
and all the humidifiers are in the basement with your guitars. Is that what I'm seeing? And I'm like, yeah,
That's what you're saying.
There's
all right.
no reason they
So
can't go
we're
sleep down
all
there.
on the same page.
Yeah. I had a similar thing about the house fire with my wife. She's like, well, if there was a fire, I'm like, okay, if there's a fire, you grab the kids, and I gotta grab at least 3 guitars.
I grab
know?
something.
We can easily
then we'll
carry
be
3
fine.
guitars out.
Yeah.
You know what? I might this is a sad thing, and this is a totally arguable point. This is like a complete philosophy, but I might have to grab the deluxe before any guitars. The deluxe and my J45,
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
which they don't even go together, but I just, you know what I mean? Like that's
That's true. That's true.
Gotta save it.
so
That's
yeah.
true.
Anyway.
This
No,
has been awesome, guys.
Wayne, this has been great. this is
Made my day.
best content. Yeah, made my day too, man. This is great.
Yeah.
We'll have like 3 listeners, but whatever.
You'll have 3 more after this, though.
3 more. You
Yeah.
know what? I do appreciate you taking the time. I know Andrew does too. And it's really nice getting to talk to you for sure. But thank you for taking the time.
Likewise, man. Yeah.
At Backstage Lowdown. It's great.
Yeah, cheers. Well, I think we're trying to get something going in KW at there's a brewery there, I think, that does some shows.
There's a bunch now, right? That's
Okay, yeah.
we had.
I can't remember. Someone reached out about it, and I've connected them to our.
Listen, when
agent,
you know that's happening, shoot us a message and we'd be
Yeah,
happy
for
to
sure.
sit down and just meet up and talk guitars
Yeah.
and drink beer.
sounds like a plan.
Beautiful.
Awesome. Thanks, Wayne.
Thanks so
Awesome.
much,
Thanks for
Wayne.
joining
Cheers,
us, buddy.
guys.
Most appreciated.
Yeah, no problem.
Cheers.
See you later.
Yeah.